This is all of it right here. It's all single-sided. I've only separated it because I wanted to kind of show you a few things, but it's all single-sided there. And take that one out. It's my cover sheet. But some of it is stuff that we already have, but you'll see just how thick that is. So it is a lot of data, and a lot of it we don't have, or we didn't have, but we do now. Everything from the BCA is what it looks like. Maybe not everything. One of the first things that I wanted to see is what they would do with that image that they accidentally put in last time. And this time with that image, and you can review these documents yourself, obviously, but it has now been taken out. Not the whole image, just kind of, they redacted it, 13.82 sub D.7. So thought that was interesting. It was good. It could be why it took so long for them to fill out everything to get us all the stuff, because there is a lot here. And then they gave us 711 photos, most of which we already had, but some very interesting photos in there too. So it looks like every time we request stuff, not every time, but generally, we get a little more, a little more, a little more. So maybe we'll keep at that. Now, there were 3 pages that I did not include because I forgot to include them. So I'll have to add these 3 pages to the PDF. But basically, it's a analysis request form. And I believe this one deals specifically with the latent prints, the question documents. It's just the actual form. The data and everything is still in there. But for whatever reason, these 3 pages got lost while I was creating the PDF, multiple PDFs, and then I combined it into one PDF. So I will add these 3 pages in there. I put them in a paper clip so that I could do that. Only thing of relevance really that I see here is Joe Cooksley. Joe Cooksley, you're going to see him everywhere. His name is on just about everything here. Submitted per request to team lead Joe Cooksley for QD and LP, fingerprints, and footprints. So this just shows what they're testing for, fingerprints and footprints. And the known handwritings collected by Joe Cooksley at the scene, which they give us because it's photocopied. A lot of it is dark. So we'll probably try to get another data request specifically for the pages that came out very, very dark. And there are some. One of the good things, the interesting things that we were able to finally get that is still bothering me, this is still a little odd to me, is the notebook. The actual notebook that David wrote the quote-unquote note, right? Submit to Allah, open the Rise Now. This was a budget book. It looks like it began in September of 2011. That's what it started out as. Now, what you'll notice here are the page numbers. I had always assumed that the last page was going to be Open the Rise, Submit to Allah. And even in this that they gave us, that's what they put here. But when you read it, when you go through the page numbers, you'll see 41A-32, 41A-33, blah, blah, blah. Open the Rise is on page 30. So somehow what they're saying is David flipped through the middle of this. You'll see here, there it is again. And Open the Rise, most recent version, Submit to Allah Now. It's weird that they have this here, and they're very careful to also put this at the end. So I did not like that particularly. But what I could say, now I can really grasp this, is why. So David flips to page 30 and writes this, Submit to Allah, in this book. And when you look at what's on the next page, page 31, this is the one where it talks about Sandy Hook, Building 7. Things are edited out, or things are crossed out here. BHD, Stalin executions, Eric Holder smiling. This could be kind of like a checklist of things for him to do for the Rise, probably. I don't know. Fast and Furious is also on here. I mean, these are big things. These are a lot of the things. But he's got a graduation, inner city kids, recruiting at schools, which for me is a big one. Party music video. Ice is even on here. Cartoon compilations. My entertainment, it looks like. My enlistment. Sorry, my enlistment. So he covers his enlistment. So you can see what is covered, what is crossed out, and what is not crossed out. Very interesting stuff there. Another interesting thing is if you look at page 30, so we know that page 30 is Open the Rise. We know page 31 is that checklist. Look at page 32, and you'll see there is actually one little smear of blood. You'll see that there too. So he had his hands, if this is correct, he had his fingerprints or some blood on 3 pages here. But this page would have to be open, right? It just seems weird that he would flip through half of this notebook and not go to the very end, where there was obviously more pages. The last known page, I believe, is page 58, and that's where these photocopies stop. So I'm assuming there's nothing else on those pages from 58 to page 80, and that just makes me wonder why he would flip to the middle. Of course, I'm not even really convinced that this is a suicide. I do not believe this is anything close to a suicide note or anything like that. What's interesting, page 30, but before that, it's page 21. So we have to request the missing pages of this 80-page sheet here. They got to have them all. I don't believe they just have these ones that we've been given. And if there's some blanks, well, we have some blanks here too. 20 is blank, and I believe 21 is also blank. So, other thing that you'll notice here with this particular notebook, just the last thing to cover here, is how it ends. So it begins with a list of looks like a budget list. Like I said, it's a budget book. That budget book did not last very long. It's only a couple pages, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 pages, and that's all we get of the budget. Then we get some blank pages, and then he's got open the Rise most recent version, submit to all and now on page 30. Then he's got his checklist. Then he's got some other stuff, B-roll shot list, dancing cops, HD 911. Some interesting stuff here. So please go through those and read those. Government spying is on here. NYPD car-mounted body scanners. Some pretty hardcore stuff, especially back in 2012. A lot of this stuff that we were talking about. Let's see, something about a general maybe. So the dancing cops was a little interesting because we've seen some dancing Apple Valley Police Department officers and some dancing Dakota County Sheriff's deputies. Then on page 32, film festival, VOD, rent in HD. So he's doing all this, right? Make DVDs, sell DVDs with question marks. Doesn't appear to be any blood or anything on those pages. No money is best. Here's what he says. Once there's money, you have to pay everyone. But that might not be so bad. But then he says underneath, no money is best. Boom. And that's why the Rise was always supposed to be free. So, page 33 seems like more B-roll footage stuff. Definitely stuff for, stuff that he can use later on. And then what do we have here? Page 34, still more of that same. Same with 35 here. He's got some topics. Humorous approach to the length of time it takes. Less talk, more shots. The vision nationwide, beautiful shots. So he's getting a lot of footage there. A lot of more planning, but this particular part isn't dated, so it's hard to see exactly when that was done. He's got a test group, secrecy online, Wayne Johnson, Thomas Rice, and look at these names on here. This is a who's who. He's got a question mark next to Sean Wright. I found that interesting too. Some people are checked off, while others are simply have a check mark by them. You can see who he sent it to and who he didn't. You can see all the people on this. Some with the question marks are interesting. Zach Carter is interesting. I've heard that name before. And but he did show this to a bunch of people to kind of get their view on it, is what it seems like. Including Eric Packesser and Danny Mason. Rick D would be an interesting one. Some interesting names here of who is on here and who isn't on here as well. On veterans, he says, I do not speak for veterans, I speak for me, but I am a veteran, and all these images are a direct response to my service. So on veteran, that's an interesting one. Got some drawings here. Looks like back when we would do trace drawings, they'd show you how to draw, how to create things. So anyone who's gonna do film and is gonna plot out scenes and everything, they do have to have some type of knowledge. They have to be able to draw somewhat, unless you're just gonna do stick figures and things like that, like what I would do. Okay, so we got that. Then we have on page 39, then it gets into a different thing. It almost looks like this was maybe Kamel's writing. The handwriting looks a lot different. David's is more choppy, I would say, and Kamel's is more elegant, I guess. Maybe not the correct term, but you know what I mean. It just seems it's more graceful to me. So granddaughter's birthday, 24 cupcakes. So this is another list. This seems like there's even looks like a cooking list of how she's gonna make that cake. So it's definitely Kamel. It's definitely a notebook that they both shared, which to me just made it interesting of why this notebook, first of all, would even be there, and why he would choose to write that not only in this notebook, but about not even halfway through, 30 pages in. Why not just write it at the very end? Interesting stuff. Maybe there's no reason. Maybe I'm overthinking. And then this is page 59, the last page. This talks about a small cake, talking about food. Definitely Kamel's. But we need to get the other pages, so we have all 80 pages, front and back, because there are A and B. So we need to make sure we have all of those. And I think that's what we will be requesting next. What I did not like, I really did not like, that Open the Rise is in 2 places here. 2 places. There's no need for that. So I'm not sure why it's there. Maybe it's just to show us that it was, I don't know. Maybe there's a logical reason why it's in there twice, but it's the same page. And the fact that they put this page at the end, for someone who doesn't pay attention to the bottom where it says 41, someone who's not paying attention to that might just think that this was the final page, that the last page in this notebook was Open the Rise. That's not true. So I just wanted to cover that really quickly. But there are so many documents. There's so much to this, and I'm hoping everybody can go through it and see if you notice anything of relevance, anything that might really help us get to the answers that so many people are reluctant to give us because they don't have. And that's okay. They just should admit that you don't have the answers and go from there. And so there are like these blacked out pages, right? There's some blacked out pages, some redacted pages. So stuff like that is okay. I'm not so much worried about that. I'm more worried about the pages, the photocopy pages that are in black. Those ones are the ones that are interesting because I can't read them all. But Joe Cooksley's notes are in here too about item 57. So I just would like to encourage everybody, as you get the time, please go through this. See if I can. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. The notes I found particularly interesting. And might be about it. The notes show when they came into the house, when they left the house. All that stuff is good. It does line up with that one page that I was questioning about the times of who came in and who went in. I'm still not really sure about those times, if they're just when they went in the house, because we know some of those people did not go in the house when they were on scene. Doesn't really matter. Am I overthinking it a little too much? But there is a lot more details on item 57, and that's been the stuff that I've been focusing on right now. But if you find anything in here, please let everybody know, or help us out. Help us figure out what really happened here. What is going on? They do all of these drawings. They take all of these drawings of the whole house, of everything, and nobody looks up to see the bullet. Nobody looks up to see item 57. It's critical. The more documents that they show us, the more it shows that they just completely missed item 57. Nobody saw item 57 on January 17th, 2015. No one in that house. There's no indication of it. They were told after. Then then they went and looked at the photo, and that's where they're saying that they found that there was a bullet hole in the photos that they had taken on the 17th. But on the 17th, nobody saw those. Nobody saw the bullet hole in the ceiling, or the bullet in the attic. What's interesting to note, one of the first things that I noticed about 57 when we first got those photos, the original 464 photos, crime scene photos, item 57, in some photos, item 57, or I shouldn't say item 57, in some photos, the bullet hole in the attic, the bullet hole in the living room leading to item 57, that bullet hole was small. And then in other photos later, the bullet hole is big. Joe Cooksley actually explains that. He actually talks about how he is the one. He mentions something about putting his finger into that hole, and basically he just made the hole bigger. The chain of custody for item 57 is also very important, and I've talked with Dan, and we'd like to hear some other people's views on it. How often, what is the normal procedure for the chain of custody for those bullets? And were the bullets found on January 17th treated the same as the bullet that was found 1 month later on February 18th? The chain of custody is very, very important. The fact that they found item 57 later, I think, is also very important here too. So there are some handwritten notes. Those are very important. There's no luminol, but it was pointed out that they used something else, something different. But whatever that blue spray was, the green spray that they sprayed onto the blood, onto the prints, the fingerprints, and the footprints, was not luminol, but it pretty much did the same thing. All right. What was the other one? So there are some photos of of item 42, item 43, but they're so dark that it's hard to really make out what they are. It's hard to get a really good look at it. So we're going to be asking for colored versions, and I understand that might cost more, it might take time, but it's definitely worth it. So we're gonna get that next, and trying to go through, just like some of these photos, just like even on item 1, it's just black. I don't know what that is, right? Hard to tell from here. The firing pin impressions. They go through 42, 43, which are the bullets, 44, 45, and eventually they get down to 57, which is the interesting one for me, because I'm having a hard time with 57 just in general. I don't see how anybody wouldn't. 57 doesn't make sense. Anything else? There's some handwritten notes about 57 identified as having been fired by item 1. Item 1 fired by item 31, which is completely misleading, because they're saying item 31 and 57 were fired by the same firearm, but it's not conclusive. There's another thing they could have checked called inconclusive. That's what they should have checked there, because where is the evidence that item 57 was fired by item 1? And they use item 31 for that, which is a bullet fragment. So that's it. That's all they use. That's all they have. Okay. So I just want to go through that. Maybe show you item 42, item 43. I know you can't really see it, but these are Xerox copies of the bullets. And I just want to set this down so I don't get lost. I haven't numbered these yet, so I got to be very careful about what I do with them. But they're all available in a PDF file. Everybody can access it. It's public. It should be public. It should have been released a long time ago. Nothing wrong with that. They're not going to release anything unless we ask. That's great. So we just need to know what to ask for. And we'll continue to ask for everything with or without their help. Yeah, so go ahead and look through those. Let me know what you think. Curious to hear everybody's views. There's some other writings for the latent impressions. And the images. We haven't even discussed the images, but I think the images speak for themselves there. There's some gruesome ones. There's some graphic ones in there. So take a look at those. And I think that is about it. Only one other interesting thing of note so far that I've found is Tommy Booth, and what Tommy Booth writes to Catherine Roach, who is doing the DNA tests on February 17th, 2015 at 8:04 a.m., which is the same day that police are informed about the bullet hole by Chris Klein. On that same day, Tommy Booth writes, in the morning, Tommy Booth writes to Catherine Roach, quote, "Nobody has been charged in this case, so I'm giving you permission to use up some evidence in its entirety for DNA analysis. If you need anything else, please feel free to contact me. Thanks for all your hard work, Tommy Booth." And of course, how could they charge anyone? They can never charge anyone. They can't charge anyone. I don't know why we're assuming anyone is guilty. Now, they can't charge anyone because the suspect is dead. How do we know that we have the right suspect then? So I would like to see them either formally charge David Crowley. I want to see them reopen the case, formally charge David Crowley, or to change the status of the case from double murder suicide to something like unknown, something that simple. So go through these documents. Let me know what you think. You're going to hear a lot more. We want to hear more from you. We want to hear more from everybody on this. If you're honest, and if you're truthful, and if you're sincere, if you're playing games, and if you're doing all that drama and all that evil stuff, don't even bother. Save your time, save my time, save everybody else's time, because I don't want to hear it. But I do want to hear from the real people. Peace.